Welcome back, Lincoln currency. In the world of tiny copper coins that most people ignore, there exists one small, shining disc that holds a story far beyond its single-cent value. Imagine walking through a grocery store parking lot, glancing down, and seeing a dull brown penny lying near your shoe. You might step right over it, never realizing that in another universe, or perhaps in a different collector's case, that exact coin could be worth a staggering $78 million. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? Yet the legend of the 1993 1-cent coin from the United States has grown into one of the most extraordinary tales of modern numismatics, where ordinary change transforms into unimaginable fortune. People dream about hitting jackpots in lotteries or finding gold nuggets, but some dreamers look for treasure not in mountains or mines, but in their pocket change. Because sometimes, history hides in the smallest metal circles, and the 1993 penny is proof of that. The story begins with a familiar face, Abraham Lincoln, whose image has graced the 1-cent coin since 1909. For over a century, the Lincoln penny has been a symbol of American endurance, modesty, and memory. But the 1993 edition of this humble coin carries something special, something that even professional collectors discuss in hushed tones. Its weight, its design, its minting history, and a series of almost mythic errors have combined to make certain examples of this penny some of the most valuable ever known. A single cent worth $78 million. It almost feels like fiction. And yet, the fascination continues, because within the history of coinage, strange miracles have happened before. Let's travel back to the year 1993. The world was changing rapidly. Technology was advancing, the internet was just beginning to weave its invisible web across nations, and the U.S. Mint was continuing its long tradition of striking billions of coins for everyday use. The Lincoln Memorial design was still in full swing. The reverse featured that iconic monument, with Lincoln himself faintly visible inside the central chamber if you looked closely enough. It was a design that had lasted since 1959, created by Frank Gasparo, a design so familiar that people barely looked at it anymore. On the obverse, Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln remained unchanged, the steady gaze of the 16th president looking rightward as he had for decades. Above him, the words, "In God We Trust." To the left, the simple, "Liberty." And to the right, the date, 1993. Beneath that date, depending on where the coin was minted, might rest a small letter, D for Denver, P for Philadelphia, though no mint mark was used that year for Philadelphia, or S for San Francisco, reserved for proof coins. The coin itself was tiny, weighing about 2.5 grams, composed mostly of zinc, 97.5% zinc, with just a thin copper plating of 2.5% to give it that traditional reddish color. Since 1982, the United States Mint had abandoned the solid bronze composition that earlier pennies had used, mainly due to the rising cost of copper. The 1993 cent, therefore, belonged to the modern zinc era. But while billions were made, not every coin was perfect. And that's where the mystery begins. Somewhere in the production lines, perhaps in Denver, perhaps in Philadelphia, a few coins slipped through the presses with errors so strange and rare that they would later send shockwaves through the numismatic community. To understand why a coin like this could ever be worth tens of millions, we have to understand how value in the world of coins truly works. It's not about face value, not even about metal content. It's about rarity, demand, and story. Every collector wants what no one else can have, a coin that stands out, a coin that has a secret. In the case of the 1993 penny, the whispers began when one particular specimen showed up in a private collection with details that didn't match anything known to the mint. It had microscopic differences in the lettering, an unusually strong strike, and an unmistakable metallic sheen that suggested a different alloy had somehow been used. Some believed it was struck on a bronze planchet leftover from pre-1982 stock. Others claimed it was made accidentally on a foreign coin blank. There were even rumors that an experimental composition had been tested briefly that year before being scrapped. Whatever the truth, the discovery set off a frenzy among collectors and treasure hunters alike. Think about it. How many times have you held a penny in your hand and ignored it? Yet here was proof that one penny, 1 cent, one almost worthless coin, could change someone's life. Videos spread online, stories were written, and suddenly everyone was checking their change jars. The key identifiers of the rumored multimillion-dollar 1993 cent became a kind of secret code among enthusiasts. Look for a slightly thicker rim, sharper lettering on Liberty, a subtle doubling on the date or the word Trust, or a strange metallic ring when dropped on a table. These features were said to mark the mythical $78 million version, a coin so rare that only one or two examples might exist in the entire world. Some say it was accidentally struck with a rare die meant for a commemorative test strike. Others claim it was an intentional mint experiment that escaped destruction. Numismatists began studying the mint records from 1993, hoping to find a clue. The Denver Mint alone produced over 6 billion 1-cent coins that year, and Philadelphia added several billion more. The San Francisco Mint, responsible for proof coins, made its usual limited run for collectors. That means billions of pennies, identical to the casual eye, were poured into circulation. Yet if even one of those was struck under extraordinary conditions, its value could eclipse all others. History has shown that mistakes at the mint can produce legendary coins. The 1943 copper cent, for example, made when a few bronze blanks were accidentally used during the wartime switch to steel, is now worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The 1955 double-die penny, with its famously misaligned date and lettering, commands huge premiums even in circulated condition. So when rumors began that a 1993 cent existed with unique errors that could place it in the same league as those legends, collectors paid attention. The material science behind coins also adds fuel to the mystery. A normal 1993 penny, made of zinc with copper plating, is light and duller in tone than its older bronze predecessors. But a few reported specimens of the so-called rare 1993 cent appeared to weigh slightly more, around 3.1 grams, matching the pre-1982 bronze coins. That alone suggested that a few old planchets might have been mistakenly used. A simple production oversight perhaps, yet in the coin world, such oversights can turn metal into gold. If an authentic bronze 1993 penny were to surface, verified by laboratory tests, and confirmed by the mint's records, its auction price could indeed reach astronomical levels. After all, collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying a slice of history, a mystery, and prestige, and then there's the design itself. The artistry of the Lincoln penny may seem ordinary now, but when you hold one under a magnifying glass, the details come alive. The lines in Lincoln's coat, the tiny letters spelling E pluribus unum above the Lincoln Memorial, the fine steps and columns, all of it reveals the craftsmanship of engravers working at microscopic precision. By 1993, the dies used to strike coins were made with advanced computer-aided techniques, yet the mint still relied on age-old methods of polishing, retooling, and striking. If even a small variation occurred, say, a misalignment of a die by a fraction of a millimeter, it could create doubled details that are visible under magnification. Those doubled dies are some of the most desirable errors among collectors, and 1993 produced its share of them. But the one that became famous, the one that inspired legends of million-dollar valuations, showed doubling so extreme that it looked almost like a ghostly echo of the date floating above itself. When the first reports of such coins surfaced, authentication laboratories like PCGS and NGC began to receive submissions from hopeful owners. Most turned out to be ordinary cents, misinterpreted by enthusiastic finders. But a few were different, flawless, perfectly struck, with mirror-like surfaces. Those were the proof coins, minted in San Francisco, sealed in special sets for collectors. And within that group, one coin stood out for reasons still debated today. It had the date 1993, but its weight was slightly heavier, and its composition tests showed trace elements inconsistent with standard copper-plated zinc. That single coin, according to whispers from auction circles, changed hands privately for tens of millions. The buyer and seller remained anonymous, fueling the myth further. Whether the $78 million figure is literal or symbolic, it represents the extreme fascination this small coin has generated. But the value of such a coin isn't measured solely in money. It represents the enduring human fascination with rarity, with finding meaning and fortune in the overlooked. Every penny has a journey, from the presses of the mint, to pockets, cash registers, and perhaps to the dark corners of a couch cushion. A 1993 penny could have traveled across decades, exchanged in thousands of small acts of commerce, carrying its story quietly. Then, one day, someone notices something odd about it. Maybe it shines differently under light. Maybe it feels slightly heavier. And that's when curiosity takes over. That's the magic of coin collecting. It transforms everyday objects into relics of mystery. The weight of the 1993 cent may seem like a trivial detail, but it's key to understanding its legend. A regular coin from that year weighs about 2.5 grams. To truly understand why the 1993 penny has captured so much attention, we need to journey into the heart of its creation, into the world of the United States Mint itself. The Mint, with its echoing machines, its precise engineering, and its long legacy of producing billions of coins, is not just a factory, it's a place where metal becomes history. In 1993, that process was both modern and ancient, a dance between automation and human craftsmanship. Picture the Denver Mint floor, rolls of zinc planchets being fed through presses, each blank disc about to receive the face of Abraham Lincoln under thousands of pounds of pressure. Each strike is meant to be identical, perfect, efficient. But perfection, as the Mint has learned again and again, is a fragile dream. A small vibration, a faint misalignment, or a single die flaw can change everything. And that's where rare treasures are born. When the first 1993 pennies began their journey through the presses, the world outside had little idea that this year's production would become legendary. The coin itself was standard in every sense. Its composition of copper-plated zinc had become the norm for over a decade, and its design was unchanged. Yet even in that repetition, something mysterious happened. Among billions of identical coins, a handful came out different. To the naked eye, they looked the same. But under magnification, subtle anomalies appeared, a doubled image here, a missing detail there, a faint doubling on the numbers of the date, or a microscopic difference in metal texture. These imperfections, invisible to most, would later become the markers of immense value. The Mint's history is filled with such accidents. In fact, some of the most famous coins in American history are the result of errors, oversights, or unexpected variations. The 1955 double die cent was created when two impressions of the design were misaligned on the die, producing doubled lettering so vivid it looked like a shadow. The 1943 copper penny was born because a few bronze planchets from 1942 were left in the machines when the switch to steel occurred for wartime conservation. These coins, once considered mistakes, are now icons. The 1993 penny, though made in a modern era of precision, followed the same pattern, proof that even in an age of technology, chance still plays its quiet game. Inside the Mint, each die is a masterpiece of metal engraving. The face of Lincoln and the Lincoln Memorial were carefully reproduced from master hubs, each die undergoing countless tests and polishings before striking a single coin. The Mint workers used microscopes to inspect every curve and letter, yet errors are inevitable. A tiny scratch or a worn die can alter the look of a coin, giving rise to varieties that collectors obsess over. The wide AM and close AM, varieties that appeared in later Lincoln cents, for instance, owe their existence to minor design spacing differences. So it's no surprise that the 1993 penny would one day be scrutinized the same way, with collectors looking for unique spacing, subtle shifts, or doubled features. The 1993 cent also marks an important moment in the evolution of U.S. coinage. It sits at the crossroads between the older mechanical era and the new digital minting technologies. The early 1990s saw the Mint experimenting with improved die engraving techniques using computer numerical control systems, ensuring sharper, more uniform designs. Yet these improvements also created a paradox. When something did go wrong, it became even rarer, because the system was so efficient at avoiding errors. That's why when a genuine Mint mistake from the 1990s surfaces, it stands out dramatically. A wrong planchet, a misaligned die, or a unique metal mixture becomes instantly famous, because by then, Such errors were almost impossible. The coin's weight plays a vital role in identifying authenticity and anomalies. As mentioned earlier, the standard post-1982 penny weighs around 2.5 grams, made of zinc with a copper plating just 8 microns thick. But a few 1993 specimens have been reported at 3.1 grams, identical to the pre-1982 bronze composition. This is more than just a curiosity. It suggests that during production, leftover bronze blanks from earlier years may have found their way back into circulation. Such an event is rare but not impossible. The mint reuses machinery and sometimes stores older materials. A handful of those older blanks slipping into the 1993 production run could create bronze coins that look normal but weigh more, feel denser, and ring differently when dropped. Collectors call them wrong planchet errors, and they are among the most coveted of all mint mistakes. Imagine finding such a coin. You pick up a penny, toss it onto a table, and instead of a dull thud, it gives off a bright bell-like tone. You weigh it, and instead of 2.5 grams, it reads 3.1. You test its metal, and it shows a higher copper percentage. In that moment, you're holding a piece of minting history, a coin that slipped through the cracks of time. And that's what the 1993 pennies legend is built upon, that somewhere out there, a handful of coins exist, unnoticed and unassuming, carrying a secret composition that turns their value from 1 cent to millions. But composition alone doesn't create myth. There's also the question of design anomalies, the kind of double die errors or die polishing marks that distinguish one coin from billions. Some collectors claim to have found 1993 cents where the word Liberty appears slightly thicker or where the 3 in 1993 shows signs of doubling under magnification. Others report unusually strong strikes, mirror-like surfaces, or strange luster patterns, as if the metal had been treated differently. These peculiarities, when verified, can drastically elevate a coin's status. The 1993 double-die penny, for example, though not widely confirmed, is rumored to exist in a few isolated collections. If authenticated, such a coin could indeed command astronomical prices, potentially reaching the legendary $78 million valuation whispered in collector circles. That figure, $78 million, may sound fantastical, but it serves as a symbol of the extraordinary lengths collectors go to acquire the rarest of the rare. In the world of high-end numismatics, rarity is power. When only 1 or 2 known specimens exist of a given coin, its value is determined by passion, prestige, and competition among the ultra-wealthy. A billionaire collector may see a coin not as currency, but as a piece of history that can never be duplicated. In that light, the 1993 cents rumored price tag isn't just about metal, it's about mythology. Now, let's look more closely at the design elements themselves. The obverse, featuring Lincoln's portrait, carries more than a century of legacy. The fine details of his beard, the subtle curve of his collar, and the expression of resolve in his eyes were originally sculpted by Victor David Brenner. His initials, VDB, which caused controversy in 1909 for being too prominent, were by 1993 quietly nestled beneath Lincoln's shoulder. On some rare coins, those initials appear slightly misplaced or faint, tiny details that might hint at dye wear or overpolishing. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, shows the Lincoln Memorial with an incredible level of detail, down to the tiny figure of Lincoln seated within the memorial, visible through a magnifying glass. Even small distortions or filled dyes in these columns can create unique varieties, and 1993 was a year that produced a few of them. Proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint in 1993 are among the most beautiful examples of modern numismatic art. Their mirror-like fields and frosted designs make them stand out instantly. Each proof cent was struck multiple times to bring out detail, creating deep contrast and sharpness. These proof coins were never intended for circulation. They were packaged and sold to collectors. Yet even among them, anomalies occurred. A few proof coins from 1993 reportedly exhibit unique coloring or slight differences in metal density, subtle enough that only advanced testing could detect them. Some believe that the coin at the center of the $78 million story was one such proof, a piece struck with experimental alloy, preserved perfectly, and later sold privately for an unimaginable price. But why would anyone pay that much for a coin, no matter how rare? The answer lies in human nature. Collectors are driven not just by value but by the idea of owning something singular, a piece of perfection or a piece of history that no one else possesses. For some, it's art. For others, it's legacy. Coins are tangible links to time, carrying the marks of the era they were born in. The 1993 cent represents more than just a year or a denomination. It represents the final stretch of the 20th century, a moment of transition in technology, in minting, and in American identity. To own the rarest example of that coin is, in a way, to own a fragment of history itself. If we look at market dynamics, coin prices often fluctuate with trends, discoveries, and collector enthusiasm. When a new era coin is authenticated, its story can spread like wildfire across forums, auctions, and YouTube videos. Demand surges overnight. A coin that once fetched a few thousand might suddenly be worth hundreds of thousands. The myth of the 1993 cent's $78 million value began in this way, as a whisper, a rumor, a spark that grew into legend. The more people talked about it, the more others started looking for it. And that's how modern treasure hunts begin, not with maps or chests of gold, but with rolls of coins from the bank, waiting to reveal their secrets. Many treasure hunters and coin roll searchers have turned their attention to 1993 pennies, examining them under microscopes, weighing them, testing them with magnets and meta. Every great story in the world of coins eventually reaches the moment where facts blur into legend, and legend turns into obsession. By the time the whispers about the 1993 1-cent coin began spreading across collector circles, the excitement had already grown beyond reason. Forums, magazines, and early coin hunting videos began to fill with speculation. Could a 1-cent coin, struck in a year as ordinary as 1993, truly be hiding among billions of others with a secret that made it worth $78 million? To understand how that belief caught fire, we have to dive into the fine details. The errors, the grading, the discoveries, and the psychological pull that turns ordinary coins into icons. When a coin leaves the mint, it enters a world where its fate depends on the smallest details of its journey. Some coins go straight to banks, where they're rolled, bagged, and circulated. Others are struck to collector standards and stored carefully in proof sets. Over time, these coins develop different personalities. Circulated coins gather wear, scratches, and marks from machines and pockets. Uncirculated coins remain crisp, shining like tiny mirrors of history. And then, there are the outliers, the few that never should have existed in the first place. The 1993 penny's claim to fame lies in this final category. Some of its variants seem to whisper that they were never meant to be ordinary. A faint doubling in the lettering, a ghost-like reflection of Lincoln's eye, or the wrong metallic ring when flicked, each detail fuels the dream. Collectors spend hours under magnifiers searching for such anomalies. They look for doubled dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, die cracks, die chips, repunched mint marks, and the rare but beautiful misstrikes where design overlaps itself like an echo frozen in metal. In 1993, a handful of such cents began surfacing. They weren't immediately recognized for what they were, because the differences were microscopic. But to the trained eye, a universe exists inside those small imperfections. A single die chip, a raised blob of metal where the die cracks slightly, might form a mark that distinguishes one coin among billions. The famous BIE error, named for a small die chip between the B and E of Liberty on some Lincoln cents, is beloved by collectors. Versions of that same error have been found on 1993 pennies, adding to their uniqueness. But the most sensational stories come from rumors of wrong planchet errors. Imagine a 1993 cent struck not on zinc with copper plating, but on a leftover bronze blank from the early 1980s, or even on a foreign coin blank of slightly different alloy. These events are freak accidents. During the massive production runs, the mint's machinery sometimes mixed old or foreign blanks by mistake. When a coin is struck on the wrong metal, its weight, sound, and even color shift ever so slightly. A 1993 bronze penny would have the deeper red hue and heavier feel of pre-1982 cents, instantly detectable to anyone who knows what to look for. If one of those exists, it would be beyond rare. It would be one of a kind. That is how legends like the $78 million penny are born. To verify such coins, grading and certification are crucial. Two of the most respected authorities in this field are the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC. These organizations use meticulous scientific processes to analyze coins, weighing them, measuring dimensions, studying die markers under microscopes, and even performing metal composition analysis. Once verified, the coins are encapsulated in airtight holders known as slabs, marked with grade, mint mark, and unique identification numbers. A coin certified by PCGS or NGC instantly commands more respect and higher value in the market. So when rumors surfaced that a single 1993 S-proof cent had been authenticated by one of these companies as a unique specimen, experimental alloy, the numismatic world buzzed with speculation. The grading number was allegedly never made public, the sale confidential, and the details lost to private archives. But even without proof, the story grew, because every collector loves the idea that one perfect coin escaped the mint's control. That's how myths thrive in numismatics. Every generation has its holy grail, the 1909 SVB cent, the 1955 double die, the 1943 copper cent, the 1969 S double die obverse, the 1972 D small date, the 1982 transitional composition, and now, the 1993 Enigma. Each represents a fusion of fact and faith. For those who believe, the 1993 penny isn't just a piece of metal, it's a story waiting to be discovered. And when stories like these spread across the internet, they ignite a modern-day treasure hunt unlike anything the old collectors could have imagined. Social media, YouTube, TikTok, and countless coin hunting channels have turned the humble penny into a symbol of hidden wealth. Videos proclaim, "Check your 1993 penny. It could be worth millions." Thousands of viewers rush to search their jars, weighing coins, holding them to light, and hoping to glimpse that faint doubling or heavier weight. The legend of the $78 million penny thrives on that hope. In reality, the number itself, $78 million, is more than a price tag. It's a statement of wonder, a metaphor for how extraordinary rarity transcends logic. It reflects the psychology of collecting. Humans have always placed immense value on uniqueness. A diamond's brilliance, a painting's brushstroke, a misprinted stamp, each holds worth because it's unlike the rest. The same rule governs coins. A mint error that happens once in a billion coins becomes a relic of cosmic improbability. To a true collector, that's priceless. They see the 1993 penny not for what it costs to make, but for what it represents, the impossible hiding in plain sight. Still, within the numismatic community, researchers continue searching for documentation or evidence that could confirm the existence of an ultra-rare 1993 specimen. Some trace back mint records, comparing die serials, machine logs, and metal procurement lists from that year. Others perform metallurgical tests on odd 1993 cents found in circulation. A few samples have indeed revealed higher copper content than expected, fueling even more theories. Perhaps a batch of old blanks was mistakenly used. Perhaps an internal test struck a few experimental pieces that escaped into circulation. The mint's own archives from that period are incomplete in minor production details, leaving room for endless speculation. That vacuum of certainty is the perfect breeding ground for legends. Even professional collectors admit that the 1993 penny has a certain aura. There's something poetic about it. The coin is small, almost weightless, yet its story is monumental. It's not made of silver or gold, yet it shines brighter in conversation than most precious metals. And the year itself, 1993, seems ordinary enough, yet it sits right before the great redesigns of U.S. coinage in the decades to follow. In hindsight, it feels like a coin frozen between eras, old enough to belong to the classic Lincoln Memorial design, new enough to belong to the modern minting age. That dual identity gives it even more mystery. It stands at the border of two worlds, tradition and innovation, and somewhere in that transition, something extraordinary might have occurred. When numismatists talk about value, they use terms like condition rarity, variety rarity, and survival estimate. A condition rarity means that very few examples exist in pristine state. A variety rarity refers to a specific die type or error that is inherently rare. The 1993 pennies myth merges both. If there is indeed a single coin struck with an experimental metal composition, perfectly preserved, then its rarity is absolute, one of one. That's why its supposed value surpasses logic. In private collections, such pieces often disappear from public view for decades, their existence confirmed only by whispers and indirect references. And that, perhaps, is the most fascinating part of this story, that something so valuable could remain hidden for 30 years in someone's drawer or safe, known only to a select FEW. At the same time, the search continues among ordinary people. Across America, thousands of hobbyists still open rolls of pennies from banks, carefully examining each coin with magnifying glasses, digital scales, and microscopes. They separate them by mint marks: 1993D from Denver, 1993P from Philadelphia, and 1993S proof coins from San Francisco, hunting for any clue. Sometimes, the coins show fascinating features: weak strikes, die scratches, ghostly doubling, plating blisters, or strange coloration caused by age and environment. Each discovery, no matter how small, keeps the dream alive. Because the truth is, no one knows where that mythical coin might be. It could already sit in a vault somewhere, or it could still be waiting to be found in a handful of change. That dream of discovery is what makes coin collecting timeless. It's not just about profit, it's about the feeling of uncovering history with your own hands. When you find a coin that's different, you hold a story that survived decades of circulation, thousands of exchanges, and millions of hands. The 1993 penny story is an invitation, a reminder that even the smallest things we overlook can hold unimaginable secrets. And maybe somewhere, in a dusty coin jar in someone's attic, lies that 1 cent whose destiny defies imagination. When people first hear about the $78 million penny, they laugh. Then they get curious. Then they start looking. That curiosity is contagious, and it's what has kept the tale alive for years. Because in every generation, there are those who believe that hidden treasures still exist, not in pirate cheese,